Winter does not simply arrive, it dominates. The air that afternoon was so cold it felt solid. At -71 degrees Celsius, even sound moved carefully. Frost clung to every branch of the endless Siberian forest. Snow stretched across the land like a white ocean, unbroken and merciless. 65-year-old Anfisa rode slowly through the trees on her sturdy Yakutian horse, Sardana. The small, thick-coated horse moved confidently through the deep snow, its breath rising in heavy clouds. Anfisa had lived alone in this wilderness for more than 20 years. She understood its silence, she understood its warnings, and she respected its rules. Out here, survival belonged to the strong. But strength, she believed, was not always about power. It was about endurance, and sometimes compassion. That afternoon, something unusual caught her eye. Beneath a snow-covered larch tree, barely visible against the white ground, was a small shape. At first, she thought it was a fallen branch. Then it moved. A baby roe deer. The tiny fawn was curled tightly into itself, its thin legs trembling uncontrollably. Snow clung to its delicate fur. Its eyes were wide, not just from cold, but from fear. Anfisa slowed Sardana and carefully dismounted. The forest was too quiet. There was no sign of the mother. No tracks nearby except the faint imprint of the fawn's struggle. And then she saw something else. Large paw prints. Fresh. Her breath slowed. Brown bear. In winter, most bears in Siberia remain in hibernation. But hunger, disturbance, or desperation can wake even the heaviest sleeper. And a hungry bear in -70 degrees is not patient. Sardana shifted nervously. The horse had smelled it too. Anfisa listened. A faint crunch of snow. Movement between the trees. Closer than she expected. The fawn tried to stand but collapsed again. Its small body did not have long in this cold. Minutes, perhaps. Anfisa knew the rule of the forest: do not interfere. Predator and prey. Life and death. But she also knew another rule: do not turn away from suffering if you can prevent it. The crunch came again, heavier this time. Through the thin curtain of birch trees she saw it. A large brown bear. Its thick winter coat was matted with frost. Steam rose from its massive body. Its nose lifted, scenting the air. It had already caught the smell of the fawn. And now it caught hers. For a moment, everything froze. The bear stood still, studying her. Anfisa's heart pounded, but her hands did not shake. Fear was natural. Panic was deadly. She moved slowly, deliberately, stepping between the bear and the trembling fawn. The distance between them was no more than 30 meters. Too close. Sardana stamped the ground, snorting loudly. The bear rose slightly onto its hind legs, not fully standing, but high enough to see better. Its dark eyes locked onto Anfisa. This was not a bluffing fox. Not a cautious wolf. This was an apex predator. And she was alone. Anfisa raised her arms, making herself appear larger. She shouted, not in fear, but in command. Her voice cut sharply through the frozen air. The bear hesitated. It wasn't used to humans here. Most villages were many kilometers away. Encounters were rare, but never impossible. She grabbed the flare gun from her saddlebag. She always carried one. Not for hunting. For warnings. The bear stepped forward. Snow crushed beneath its enormous paws. 25 meters. The fawn let out a weak cry. That small sound changed everything. The bear's focus sharpened. Food, easy food, Anfisa fired the flare. A burst of red light exploded into the grey sky, followed by a sharp crack that echoed across the forest. The bear flinched, startled. But it did not run. It lowered itself again, circling slightly. Testing. Smart. Very smart. Anfisa knew she could not rely on one warning. She moved backwards slowly, never turning her back, positioning herself so she could lift the fawn. The tiny body was barely warm. It weighed almost nothing. Too light. She wrapped it quickly in the thick wool blanket tied to her saddle. The bear huffed loudly, annoyed now. 15 meters. Sardana reared slightly, front hooves striking the air. Anfisa grabbed the second flare. This time she aimed lower, toward the snow several meters in front of the bear. The flare struck the ground and burst into sparks and smoke. The sudden brightness, the sharp burning scent, the unnatural fire against snow, it was enough. The bear stepped back. Then another step. It gave a deep warning growl, not of fear, but of frustration. This meal was no longer simple. And in this cold, energy mattered. After several long seconds, the bear turned. Slowly. Deliberately. It disappeared between the trees, its massive shape fading into white and shadow. Anfisa did not move for nearly a full minute. The forest remained still. Only when she was certain the bear was gone did she allow herself to breathe deeply again. She secured the wrapped fawn carefully against her chest and mounted Sardana. The ride home was slow. The wind had picked up, slicing across the open clearings. The temperature was dropping even further with the coming evening. The fawn's breathing was shallow. "Stay," she whispered. "Stay with me." Her cabin stood alone near a frozen riverbank, a small wooden structure built decades ago. Smoke soon rose from its chimney as she pushed the door open. Inside, warmth slowly returned. She placed the fawn near the stove, carefully rubbing its legs to restore circulation. She warmed diluted goat's milk and fed it slowly through a cloth. Hours passed. Outside, darkness swallowed the forest. Inside, life fought quietly. And survived. By morning, the fawn was stronger. Weak, but alive. Days turned into weeks. The little roe deer began standing on its own, then walking, then following Anfisa clumsily around the cabin yard. Sardana tolerated it patiently. But the forest never forgets. Tracks appeared occasionally near the cabin. Large tracks. The same bear had not wandered far. Perhaps it remembered the flare. Perhaps it remembered the woman who stood in its way. Or perhaps it was simply surviving, as all creatures must. When spring finally softened the snow, and the temperatures rose above zero, the time came. Anfisa led the young roe deer to the edge of the forest. It was stronger now. Fast. Alert. Wild again. She knelt and touched its neck one final time. "Strength," she whispered. The deer hesitated, just briefly, before bounding into the trees, disappearing into the vast Siberian wilderness. Anfisa stood alone once more. The forest stretched endlessly before her. Cold. Unforgiving. Alive. In Yakutia, survival belongs to the strong. But sometimes, strength is not claws or teeth. Sometimes, it is a 65-year-old woman on horseback, standing between danger and something fragile. And somewhere deep within the trees, a brown bear walks, still hunting, still surviving, in a land where every choice matters. Because in Siberia, the forest is never finished with its tests.